morning, I'm Supriya Shrinate and you with us right here on Law Against Lynching. That's exactly what the court wants the government here in the centre and the state governments to do. Horrendous acts of mobocracy cannot be tolerated, and these are not my words, these are words from India's top court. Supreme Court says that rising number of mob lynching incidents across the country are shameful, and it's shocking that the government is not losing sleep over it, coming down heavily on the incidents of lynching and cow vigilantism. The apex court today has asked Parliament to consider enacting a new law. The question though is, does a new law help or is more enforcement required? What is making and fueling this kind of lynching? Is there a greater crackdown that one requires on fake news and fake forwards in all of that? And joining us on the show to discuss precisely that is China NC representing the BJP, Adil Singh Boparai of the Congress Party, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate of the Supreme Court of India, and Neerja Chaudhary, political commentator and a very, very eminent columnist. I think it's only fair that I start with you, China, and I think the question really is that the apex court has criticized the government for its failure to stop mob lynching and has said that the onus lies on the centre and the state governments to check these incidents and create laws against it. It also says acts of mobocracy are horrendous. As somebody who represents the ruling benches, the ruling party, isn't this embarrassing that this word of caution, this word of advice, this word to act is really coming in from the Supreme Court and not within from the Treasury benches?
Well, Supriya, I don't think that we have any kind of ego, or our government does not sit on some kind of a high horse. So the Honorable Supreme Court suggesting that whether it's lynchings or certain kind of vigilance, the Prime Minister has already spoken very vociferously on it, that no kind of moral custodians of society or vigilantism would be tolerated. However, in the recent past, we have seen when it has been incidents of lynching, there have been fake news which has been responsible, there have been rumors which have been responsible, and there have been a collection of mob in a frenzy trying to take law into its hands. And we have acted upon all these cases with absolute ferocity, and I think that we are not here to seek certificates on our doings, but as a duty of a state to contain law and order, whichever part of the country it be in, I think it is imperative for us to contain a situation and make sure that perpetrators know there is something called fear of law and there is a process of law. So I don't think that we are here to criticize the honorable findings of the Supreme Court or suggestions. We are here to implement, but as representatives of the public, we must understand that there needs to be a collective consciousness of the bystander too. When you have a mob frenzy and a situation going out of control, whether it's fake news, whether it's a WhatsApp message, whether it's just a sheer rumor, there needs to be a responsibility of the citizen as is that of the administration to act fast. And I think that if we are able to give landmark judgments in record times, which is also something that the Supreme Court talked about and something that we have echoed on multiple platforms, you have our leadership which has espoused the viewpoint of the party repeatedly, saying that no kind of moral custodians of people who take law into their hands will be given any kind of easy let out route, and no political insulation either.
Right. Just hold your thoughts there, because you know, with the act of ferocity with which you have acted, it doesn't seem to be working. And just for the benefit of our viewers, why did we at ET Now choose to do this? 28 people have been killed in 66 cases of mob violence and an account of mobs killing people, and this is just on the child lifting rumors alone. That's what I'm talking about. But let me just take it across to Neerja Chaudhary. And Ms. Chaudhary, the Supreme Court has asked central and state government to make laws against lynching. It observes that it is horrendous acts of mobocracy that cannot be tolerated. How do you justify it in civic society where ministers of the government have garlanded and seen pictured with those convicted of lynching a man?
I think, you know, you've raised very, very important questions here. I'm happy that the Supreme Court has taken a very strong view against lynching. It's asked the government to enact a new law, though I don't know whether the law is needed. It's the implementation of the law and punishing those who are guilty and making a message of those who are guilty so that others don't take law into their own hands. It's this that has not happened fast enough. And now the government, center and states are waking up, and the Supreme Court has held them responsible. The Supreme Court has said we are going to issue guidelines, and in a sense you have to give to us compliance reports. In other words, you know, the whole thing will be under the supervision of the Supreme Court, and high time too. But my question is this, that why has this situation deteriorated in the last 3-4 years? Why has a mahal been created in the country that people suddenly feel, people have taken law into their hands, but people suddenly now feel even more, you know, whether it's child abductors or cow vigilantism, that they can do so and get away with it. It's this feeling that we can get away with it on certain issues that's been created, which I think is the Paap ki Gangotri, and it is there that the governments have to move. They have got to really, as I say, punish the people, create the mahal. And you are right, if the ministers in the Union of India are going to garland the lynchers, then what message to the whole country?
That's a very important observation, and that's an observation I personally subscribe to, that people in power and people in authority need to maintain a very safe, a very judicious distance from those who are seen acting in this way. But let me take it across to the Congress before I go technical, and I want to have Sanjay Hegde answer a few questions. But Aadar Singh Boparai, before I move any further, you know, there are cases of lynching, and they've only gone up in the last 3-4 years. In this year alone, there have been very high number of cases. 2017 saw a lot of vigilantism, and I'm not going to call it vigilantism, I'm going to call it lynching on account of cow slaughter. This year we are seeing a lot of that happen on account of child abducting. Is this all about lynching, or are you going to look at the bigger picture and say this is collapse of law and order? And it cannot just be on account of the BJP or the ruling benches alone, because, you know, members of the opposition, maybe not the Congress, but members of the opposition are also speaking a certain narrative. What business does OIC have to raise the whole issue of, to talk about religious lines in our defense forces? So both sides have to be blamed equally.
Well, Supriya, first and foremost, the RSS and the BJP on one side and Mr. Owaisi's party on the other side are two sides of the same coin. But now let me respond to your question. Firstly, we welcome the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, and our position, the Congress Party's position today, stands vindicated. You asked a very pertinent question: what is responsible for this fueling violence? The reason is the BJP's insidious ideology. The BJP is synonymous with hate, with bigotry and with violence. And I was listening to Ms. Shaina NC, and her assurances sound so hollow because I'm going to back it up with facts which have actually taken place on the ground. The Union Culture Minister Mahesh Sharma goes and pays homage to the Dadri murder accused. A BJP MP from Jharkhand, Nishikant Dubey, a few weeks back volunteered to pay the legal fees of a lynching accused. You have Mr. Giriraj Singh felicitating and garlanding writers and murderers. You have Mr. Jayant Sinha garlanding and felicitating convicted lynchers. I repeat, convicted by a court of law. So the question which arises is, what is the message which the BJP is sending? The message is that the BJP is sending is that we stand with you. We stand with lynchers. You have the impunity of law. Continue with this growing intolerance and polarization. And I want to read out 4 lines from the Supreme Court's judgment, which I think is telling and is a reflection of the sad reality under Mr. Modi. There's been an unfortunate litany of spiraling mob violence and agonized horror, presenting a grim and a gruesome picture. This is what Mr. Modi stands for. And let me point out the MHA data. This is not the Congress Party data, Supriya ji. The MHA data indicates...
Let me finish. No, let me just finish.
I just have one point to make.
Just give me a minute, because just give me very quickly, please.
May I? This is not his forum to spell out an agenda full of lies.
Please, Miss NC, please have the patience
Supriya
to listen.
You cannot allow this
can
on
I please
a
make my point?
Okay, one second.
Please allow me to make my point.
Shaina and Aadar Singh Boparai, please, 1 second. 1 second. Shaina and Aadar Singh Boparai, let's not get personal. Let's talk about a law that the Supreme Court warrants, and I'm going to go across to Sanjay Hegde on this. And Sanjay Hegde, is lynching the most, is the problem here, or is lynching perhaps the most telling sign of law and order collapse, governance failure? And is that what the Supreme Court is really referring to? Because And the larger question is, do we need a new lynching law? Because there are existing laws of IPC, and under various sections, whether it's 302, 307, 323, 147, people are tried. And what can a new law do besides, you know, being over and above these laws? What will be the broad contour of that law?
See, the broad contours of the law, we had a citizens group had done it. It's called Masuka in Hindi, Manushya Suraksha Kanun. But basically, the problem arises from a very curious thing. In every lynching incident, in every incident of mob violence, or in any riot, there is one slogan: "Andar ki ye baat hai, police hamare saath hai." Today, the attempt, and in the directions which the Supreme Court has given, are directions to the police that you will not be spared in case you have shown any dereliction in duty. States have been told, take administrative action against the policeman if he is shown to be derelict. The point is that the mob does not fear the law. The mob does not fear the enforcers of law. The mob thinks that it owns the lawmakers, the legislators, that the legislators will come out, they will get them out of jail. If they ever happen to be sent to jail in the first instance, they will come and garland them. And in case anything happens, they will get their families will get jobs. There is a culture of immunity and impunity that has been fostered. That is what emboldens. But the problem is this: you may start lynching for for what you think is a righteous cause of the cow, but lynching doesn't stop there. From there, we have seen mob violence go on to child lifting. Tomorrow, there may be an entirely different accusation. None of us is safe. When we go out on the streets, we cannot be sure that at any point of time there would be a summary accusation and an execution soon thereafter. Even today, Swami Agnivesh was attacked in Jharkhand.
Right.
This is not India.
True. That's exactly.
That's
exactly my point, that where does mob lynching stop? Mob lynching cannot be seen. You're absolutely right. Mob lynching cannot be seen through jaundiced eyes of just communal lines or anything. It's about a mob that takes control. It's faceless. It takes control. It takes law and order in its own hands. 1 second, Shaina, and see, I'm coming to you.
Can I please complete my point?
But Nirja Chaudhary, 1 second. No, just give me 1 minute. I'm coming to both of you. Nirja Chaudhary, I think Sanjay Hegde raises a good point that the mob does not fear the police. What is the problem in our country? Is the police force too little, or is it too politicized to do its job? And I think the focus, do you believe, has to be on enforcement and police reforms instead of a new law, really?
No, I think it has everything to do with political will. If the courts of India are now having to intervene in matters of maintaining law and order and ensuring that it is actually maintained, then what is the job of the government? What is the government going to be doing? And if mobs are going to take charge of things, whether it's on cow, whether it's on child abduction, as Mr. Hegde was saying, whether it's attack on Swami Agnivesh, whether it's attack of Shashi Tharoor's office, you can agree with him, you can violently disagree with him, but without taking to violence. Does that show the collapse of the Indian state? And the irony of it is that it is happening when you are supposed to have a strong government in place, a majority government in place, and you have at the helm of that government a tough leader, a strong image leader like Narendra Modi. What a travesty, what an irony of things for this to be happening. You know, it's a very slippery slope we are on. You may get a little bit of brownie points politically. You know, you made your point on beef eating, you made your point on love jihad, you made your point, you know, putting your opponents in place. But what future governance in India? You know, it is the implications of it are mind-boggling actually if we go down this road.
Okay. Let me just get Shaina NC to respond to that point. And Shaina, I think the worrying thing is that this could have happened under a weak, you know, seemingly not an Just coming to you, Adil. Give me 1 minute. Let me get China to respond to the point made by Neerja Chaudhary. This could have happened under a weak government, under a prime minister seemingly not in control. Here you have a brute majority government. The prime minister is somebody who likes to talk about his, who likes to be in charge. He is very much in charge. And then something like this happens, and the broad point that Neerja Chaudhary made. Why should the court be asking the government to legislate? What is the government's job here? This is not a lynching problem. This is a problem of the complete collapse of law and order.
Firstly, let me please say that this has been a strong government, has been shown through the 4 years that you have not had a single case of communal riots. Please don't mix up mob lynching with any kind of communal uncertainty or uneasiness. Now, more importantly, Neerja ji raised a question on our leadership. Our leadership has spoken on multiple occasions saying that any kind of vigilantism or any kind of so-called moral custodians of society will not be tolerated. They will be dealt with in accordance with law. Now, why does mob lynching happen? It is a mob frenzy which could be based out of a rumor, it could be based out of fake news, it could be based out of some kind of propaganda. And to suggest that these people are insulated by the police would be only viewing it through jaundiced eyes. So let's not get into the Congress trying to ascertain what the philosophy of the BJP and the RSS is, because they don't even know the ABC of what the RSS stands for. So let's understand, you have fundamentalists like Mr. Owaisi that is working towards a vote bank. You have the BJP which is working on development for all, sabka saath, sabka vikas. And there you have a certain segment of society that call them fringe, call them vigilance, call them whatever you want, who are only interested in instigating a certain segment of society, and it's not to suggest that the police and administration have not acted. Please don't believe that there is any kind of insulation for wrongdoing, and that has been espoused by our leadership. So I don't understand what strong leadership you're talking about and how you're confusing two separate issues.
One second. Shaina, no, I am not confusing. You are right, they are fringe. You are right, they have no business to be mainstream. It becomes a problem when some of the elected representatives start pandering to them. That is the issue that I think some of us are raising here. But Adil Singh Boparai, while you are, you can take a high moral ground and preach the BJP here on what is perhaps, their agenda and all of that, wouldn't you agree with me? This is a law and order problem. It needs depoliticization of the police. It needs more police force perhaps. India has very, very few policemen. We are an under-policed country. We've just got 119 police officers for every 1 lakh of us. US has 284, Germany has 296 and France has 340. The solution also lies in law enforcement.
Supriya ji, the law enforcement is part of the problem. You have to understand why is there a sudden rise in these incidents post 2014. Now let me quote the MHA data for you. If you look at the data of the past 8 years, more than 97% of cow related violence has taken place after May 2014. So what is the logical inference which you draw? That it is courtesy the BJP. Now let me enlighten Shaina ji. The Supreme Court in its judgment, I urge her to read the Supreme Court judgment, has categorically said that in all these cases, you please book these lynchers under 153A. Mr. Hegde will further elaborate this point. 153A deals with promoting enmity. So therefore, the Supreme Court has underscored that all these lynchings certainly have a communal undertone. But let me make a larger point here today. The fact is the BJP is promoting and endorsing such acts of violence. When you have a minister endorsing and garlanding them, what message are you sending to your cadres? What message are you sending to the larger populace? The fringe of the yesteryears has become the mainstream and the dominant theme today. And let me give you another instance. Hapur lynching, which is just about 40 kilometers from your Noida studio. The police, the UP police tried to pass that off as a road rage incident. But what was the reality? The witnesses, the victims were being threatened and pressurized. This is the BJP for you. Let's not soft pedal here. It is because of the BJP's insidious ideology that our social fabric today is tearing down.
1 second, Adil, please let me come in. No, 1 second, please hold on. I'm going to take this across to Sanjay Hegde. And Sanjay Hegde, I don't want to lose this debate between the two politicians, and I don't want them to be taking pot shots at each other, because this is a larger issue. It is epidemic, and which is why our apex court has asked these politicians to frame a law. I wonder if they will in the monsoon session, but that we will leave to them and we will ask them this question. But isn't it enforcement that's the need of the hour? What we perhaps need is speedier trial and no long drawn cases. We've got fast track courts that give a judgment that gets, you know, obviously appealed in a higher court. That takes years, not months, but actually years. And that delays justice. And both you and I know that justice delayed is justice denied.
The problem is not with the courts. The problem is right from the beginning of the incident to the investigation thereafter and before it is presented in courts. The point is that the policeman is then responsible to the politician, the home minister normally, and through that to the top leadership. If the top leadership sends an unambiguous message that control lynching, you can bet your life that lynching will be controlled. If the message from top is, oh come on, these are some boys having fun, these are our boys, take care of them, then you can bet your life that lynching will get out of control. Many years ago, when N.T. Ramarao first came into power, I have an eyewitness who told me that he was there when the police chief called on him. The N.T. Ramarao looked at him and just said one thing, look, I want no communal rights, they do not benefit me, I am a new party, I have come into power, I want clean governance. There were no communal rights when NTR was in power. It is always the message from the top which then resonates.
No,
so
absolutely.
If the message
Right.
from the political classes, guys do your thing, we will take care of you, then you will have mob justice on the streets.
Right.
If the message is no, the rule of law is important,
point. I think that's
then it will be enforced.
Okay, you know, I think what the larger point that you're raising is that if the state wants to, there will be no mob violence. No, I have a question to both you and Shaina NC Adil. So let me first begin with Shaina ji and then come to you, Adil ji. Shaina ji, the court has very categorically said that Parliament must enact a new law. Can I get some amount of commitment, some kind of commitment from you and the Congress that monsoon session we will perhaps see a new law being made? You are going to take the lead on to this and Congress will be held responsible if they don't back you, but there will be a move made on this. Can I get some amount of assurance?
I just want to make a comment first. Sanjay ji talked about N.T. Ramarao and that era. That is totally different to today. Today you have social media, WhatsApp. Look at the kind of fake news circulating. Look at the kind of rumors. Are you going to contain 125 crore Indians by just strong leadership, or are you going to hold some kind of accountability on the bystander who may have a moral and a legal responsibility as well? Mob lynching is not the doing of a government or an insulated group. It is the doing of public in an act of frenzy. And we need to contain that. Yes, we have spoken out loud and clear. The fact that you have had no communal riots post 2014 in itself is an achievement for our strong leadership. So I don't think we're here seeking some kind of a certificate. If the honorable courts feel there needs to be an law which is needed to be enacted, it is for the honorable members of parliament to discuss, deliberate in parliament and then come up with a solution. But more importantly, for all those accusations that, oh, this is, you know, this is insulation from the top. Please hear what the top leadership is saying. The top leadership is condemning all kinds of moral custodians of society who pretend to be fringe and who pretend to be attached to certain political parties and ideology.
Okay. Shaina NC, my limited point was, are you going to take a lead on framing this law? Adil Bopara, are you going to support a law that is being framed? Will you take equal responsibility of letting that law become a reality?
Well, absolutely, Supriya ji. We are committed to bringing all these perpetrators of this mindless violence to justice. Let the government present a bill and the Congress party will extend its unequivocal support. I cannot be more crystal clear than this. Shrinate ji just spoke about the top leadership and the comments coming from them. Let me remind her that it was none other than the candidate Mr. Modi who in the run-up to the 2014 election for the first time spoke about the pink revolution. Shrinate ji, you forget the pink revolution. These words were mouthed by none other than Mr. Modi. And since then there's been degeneration. It started with violence against minorities, went to Dalits, and now is xenophobia and parochialism. This is the reality.
I don't think it's worth even commenting on.
Adil Singh Boparai, let's not digress from the debate. I asked a very specific question. You've answered that question. I'm going to give a quick last word to Nirja Chaudhary. And Ms. Chaudhary, the citizen of this country, the court has very categorically said, has no business taking the law in its hands. You know, a faceless mob comes, murders a man and goes away. Is this also a sign of how violent we are becoming as a nation, and what do you blame it on? This can't just be political patronage. This also has to be a change in our own fabric. Have we become so violent in the last 3, 4, 5 years? I mean, what has changed? Is this the advent of fake news, and does that need to be curbed upon? I really can't put my finger to it.
You know, I agree with Shaina that you know, we have greater challenges to face with the social media, fake news as she put it, you know, more difficult to control, etc., etc. But I would say the nub of the problem is the speed and the determination with which mob lynching is quelled. I don't think it needs another law. Existing laws are adequate. You know, you can enact another law and feel very good that we've done something about it. But IPC, CRPC, 153A, all that we will be talking about. But the determination, the political will of actually putting it down, quelling it, and the message that goes from the top to the police force that this has to be done.
No, I think that's putting it rather well. It is the political will that will perhaps see issues like these being taken care of. A new law and a law after that is not going to help if there is not going to be enough enforcement. We've got laws in place that need to be enforced and enacted enough. A political class needs to take a moral high ground, and the political patronage to things like these perhaps also has to end. We are a civic society. We can't let ourselves be ruled by frenzied mobs. Thanks very much for being with us, all of you, on this edition of a very special show where we discuss and track what the Supreme Court has observed. Horrendous acts of mobocracy cannot be tolerated.